Takže čo, tu je Roman a ďalšia časť videí, ktoré točíme so zástupcami škôl pre vás, pre študentov a rodičov, aby ste mali čo najväčšie množstvo informácií alebo skúseností od nás a priamo zo škôl o konkrétnych školách. And we will do this in English, so it will be much easier for all of us to understand each other. And my today's guest is Katie Lang. She is from Liverpool Hope University, located in beautiful city of Liverpool. Katie, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm very happy that you make time and you are able and willing to share information with students, with parents. So let's chit-chat a bit, and then you will show the slides about your school, faculty, study programs, accommodation to everyone. So let's start with Liverpool. What I personally know about Liverpool is that you have big harbor. Do you?
Yes. Yeah. the docks. They're very beautiful. I think they're actually a World Heritage Site in the UK. So they're very popular with tourists and people even living in the city.
And I know that it's quite a historical city, as you said.
Yeah, very much so.
And you are the city of Beatles, which probably everyone.
Yeah, Beatles and football, I think, are the main two.
Football, yeah. If you can just speak more about the size, about population of Liverpool.
Yeah, of course. So coming from kind of my perspective and being from a little bit further north of Liverpool, it's actually not too big of a city. It's not kind of on the scale of London or anything like that. It's much smaller. But it's a lot more open. It's a really popular student city. I think we've roughly got sort of 60,000 students in the city. So it's a really popular destination for students all across the UK and obviously internationally as well. Obviously, there's a lot of culture, a lot of sport, a lot of music in the city. It's known for being quite creative, quite artistic. We've got the Tate in Liverpool, which is obviously a smaller scale of the one in London. So it's kind of like, any other city in the UK really, but not probably as busy and as maybe overwhelming as some of the major cities that can be in the UK. So it's nice. Moving to Liverpool myself as a student was probably one of the best decisions I think I made. It's the northwest of England, so it can rain, but it also has very sunny days, and it's really centrally located. There are sort of direct connections to London, Manchester, Birmingham, and then Scotland and Ireland. Liverpool has a very close connection to places like Northern Ireland and that sort of thing as well. So it's quite central really in where it's located in the UK.
I just opened a map. I will ask you, but I wanted to check which one is the closest biggest city. Which one is your neighboring big city? Is Manchester?
Manchester would be the closest, yeah, and then maybe Leeds, somewhere like that would be next.
Actually, Katie, I was living in Leeds, but it was in 2006 and 2000 for 2 years. I was working there, and then I moved up to Edinburgh in Scotland for another 1.5, I think so. And I met there one friend or co-worker, and he was from Liverpool, but he had different accent as you have. You don't have accent from Liverpool, right?
No, I'm from actually not too far outside of Leeds myself. I'm currently looking at the lovely Yorkshire countryside. So my accent, I think when I'm in Liverpool, it changes slightly. It does. I kind of get that Scouse twang, but not so much when I'm at home. It's noticeable though, isn't it, the Scouse accent? You do notice it.
Yeah. So Yorkshire, I was living there, and if you know Leeds quite well, so Headingley area, I think so. There is Headingley Park and Leeds University.
Yeah, I know the one. Yeah.
Oh, right. But let's move on and let's speak a bit more about your university. And if you can bring on your PowerPoint there.
Yeah, of course.
Really lovely. And I'm interested myself because I never been in Liverpool, which is shame.
Oh, okay.
So it's much better city than Leeds, to be honest.
I mean, some do say.
So here we are. And if we can start with a very simple question, why are you called Liverpool Hope? What means?
I think it has a lot to offer students who are potentially unsure really of their university route. Quite typically in the UK, students aren't sure whether or not they want to study a particular subject, whether it's really right for them. In the UK, there's so much choice when it comes to university. Most major cities will have 3 or 4 universities. So it can be quite overwhelming when you're applying for university, when you're sort of 16, 17, 18. It's a lot to take in. And so I think Hope narrows that down for a lot of students. The course choices, the size of the university, and the types of students that attend, I think suits a lot of people who are maybe unsure or who haven't quite made up their mind yet. It's quite a nice location. You know, as you'll see, we have an awful lot of course choice and that sort of thing as well. So it suits a lot of different people.
All right, let's do it.
No problem. So roughly we have 7,000 students at Liverpool Hope University. Now, in comparison to some of the big universities in the UK, Leeds, as you mentioned, maybe the University of Liverpool, those sorts of places, they're far bigger. You may have 15, 20,000 students. So 6.5 is considerably different. And so with us being slightly smaller, we're able to kind of focus our time and our teaching a little bit more on student support. So as you can see, TEF Gold is what we're currently rated as. In the UK, for students who don't know, most UK universities have been rated gold, silver or bronze in terms of their teaching excellence. And it just gives you a good indication of kind of, you know, whether or not your lecturers are going to be researchers themselves, whether they are key individuals within their, you know, their academic field. It's just a nice indication to know what you're going to get into. So luckily, and thankfully, we are TEF Gold still. We pretty much treat students as individuals. You'll come to notice on campus, and it's very noticeable from my point of view as kind of student and then staff. Your tutors will know who you are by name. You can't escape them. You know, it's kind of that thing where you turn up at 9 a.m. and maybe you can sneak into a lecture. They will know who you are and where you are at all times. So it's a friendly campus. You know, it's nothing kind of out of the ordinary. It's quite a homely feel, I think a lot of students come to find. And kind of to back that up, really, we have a lot of good stats to go with ourselves over the past couple of years. We're top 3 in the Northwest for graduate prospects. Again, the Northwest being Liverpool, Manchester, that kind of area. We have a very high percentage of employability. So after graduating from 6 months onwards, 98.1% of our students are either in further education, so teaching is really big at Hope, or doing their masters, or they're in employment. And as you can see, top 3 in the Northwest for student experience. Student experience encompasses a lot of things. It's, you know, the quality of education. It's, you know, how happy you are with your course mates, the support you're getting, and of course living on campus. All is included within that. Students' experiences of being in halls of residence. And there's a little bit of background there if you just wanted to do a bit more digging into sort of employability and that sort of thing. So as mentioned, we have a lot of course choice. At Hope, our main kind of aspect of the course choices that we like to promote the most is combined courses or combination courses. Now, in the UK, if you choose a combination course, it's not kind of major minor like it might be in the US or anywhere like that. It's pretty much a 50-50 split. So let's say you did education and history. Your degree is still a 3-year degree. It still costs the same amount of, you know, time and effort and hard work is put into the degree, but you've graduated with kind of 2 aspects of a, you know, a subject area that you are a specialist in. So, you know, some students might just want to do English, they might just want to do history, but you can combine them and still have kind of the same outcome. Most of our combination courses will cover these departments here. So performing arts, health sciences, business school, all those kind of typical things that you would sort of hope to see at major UK universities. For ourselves, the only thing that we don't do is medicine, dentistry and nursing, that sort of thing. But pretty much everything else we tick off quite nicely. We do offer a range of entry routes into the university. So you don't have to just join the university on a 3-year program and that's kind of it. We offer foundation years. So for students who are looking to maybe better their understanding of academic requirements, who may have just missed the mark with their entry requirements in terms of grades and that sort of thing. We have integrated years in industry, which are becoming more and more popular globally, I think. Students who do things like engineering or nutrition or teaching. I mean, teaching we have integrated kind of experience anyway, but having a year in industry now is becoming really quite important. And it may prove to be the best option in the next coming years, really, I guess, given current situations. Placement opportunities as well. Instead of doing a year integrated in industry, if you didn't want to do that, we can also do placements over the summer. In the UK, we have 4 months off in the summer, which is quite a long time to not be doing anything. And so a lot of students, students look to do a placement. And that placement is still contributed to their final degree. They still get recognition of that, but they've not spent an extra year doing a year in industry. They kind of use their time a bit more wisely, I guess. So as a kind of brief overview, it's a lot to look at there, I understand, but these are the kind of undergraduate courses that we're looking at for Hope. Now, as I mentioned, a lot of those courses can be combined. Things like social work and teaching tend to be standalone courses, but, you know, geography and history, for example, or law and criminology, accounting and finance and English literature, whatever it is that interests you. And I think that's probably, you know, why we do so well in terms of maybe graduate opportunities, student satisfaction, because students aren't having to narrow their skills down. You know, in the UK we have, you know, A-levels, for example, and so students choose 3 courses that they really enjoy and they might be really good at, and then you get to university and you have to pick one. Well, actually students don't have to do that. They can expand their kind of opportunities, and if they really enjoy 2 subjects and they're really good at them, you're going to do better in the end. You're going to get a better degree because it's what you're good at, it's what you enjoy.
Katie,
So,
if I might stop you, this is quite interesting because I'm a bit older than 18 and I see this as a nice opportunity. Maybe when you are 18, 19, you don't see full advantages of what you right now saying. For example, if I want to study robotics and I want to do a bit more on marketing also, you can combine it, right? All right.
Pretty much, it's as simple as that. The entry requirements don't differ. The price of the course doesn't differ. It's still a 3-year, you know, bachelor's degree in the UK. It just means that when you graduate, you've got kind of 2 pathways to go down, really. You know, as you say, you might be quite good at marketing, but you're also really interested in, you know, politics. And it opens a few more doors.
And you say it's 50-50, right? It's not major and minor.
No. I mean, there are some courses that, you know, might complement each other quite nicely. And so you might have a combination of teaching and you might understand one more than the other, but it's, in terms of assessment, it's 50-50.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go to study there.
Please do.
Really, because I think so we are challenging new situations in the world, and why not to have a different degree and different...
Exactly. Yeah. And then these are our postgraduate courses. So these tend to kind of follow on from our undergraduate degrees. So again, a lot of teaching, sports, management, and that sort of thing. A couple of these courses as well, robotics and that sort of thing, they are part of the integrated masters. So you can do robotics for your undergraduate degree, and then you can slide quite nicely into the postgraduate. So usually our postgrad will reflect what students have done at undergrad, so it's a bit more of an easier transition. And we've got a couple of new courses for 2020. Again, we don't do, as I said, you know, medicine, dentistry, but we do a lot of applied health sciences. So biomedical health, nutrition, sports rehabilitation, things that are a little bit more niche than kind of the general umbrella of, you know, medicine, for example.
And actually, to be honest, I have for the last 5 years just very few people who were interested in studying medicine in UK. Even if they applied, it was very difficult to get in. I think so. It was in Manchester with with course, and maybe that was it. Not much medicine, but
no, I mean, it is hard to get into it. It's a tricky line of work anyway. So I think if students, you know, don't necessarily want to be a doctor and maybe they feel like they have to, there are other options for them, you know. So entry requirements, as I say, they're fairly standard. There isn't any difference between a single honours course, so just politics, for example, and a combined politics and, you know, marketing or whatever else you're interested in. Usually we just go off a kind of direct comparison. So local qualifications will just follow the kind of the UCAS standard. If you ever wanted to check that, you can look at the bottom there. It's got a link to our country information, our specific country information website. I link it there because sometimes it can change. So it's best just to make sure that when you're applying, you look at that first, just to make sure.
Just to translate it in a student's language, guys, if you're watching this, and you don't have to worry too much about 120 UCAS points. And as Katie said, we will check with you our local or our country's requirements, which is usually Slovak Maturita, which is final exam. And you have to have language assessment or some certificate, which is in this case probably IELTS 6.0, which is quite okay, because 6.5 is much harder, and 6.0 to receive in IELTS is quite not easy, but not that difficult.
Yeah, it's fairly standard. I think it's quite average. So
maybe even I could get it, right?
I think so.
All right.
So if you ever wanted to sort of double check that or just make sure you've got the right information, it's on the website there. Tuition fees, these are fairly standard currently. At the moment, for home and EU students, we're looking at £9,250 a year. Now that does creep up occasionally. I know from when I studied in the UK myself, it's gone up ever so slightly. So I think one thing to be aware of, maybe when you're thinking about entry, kind of gaining entry to a UK university and then funding, it can change ever so slightly year on year anyway for home students as well as. Now that £9,250, the funding for that is guaranteed for 2020-2021 intake for European students. So for those joining the university in September, it still remains the same. That's not a problem. For international, as you can see there, we don't charge too much difference for international. Some universities may charge £15,000-20,000 for international students, whereas ours is only 11. So it's not too far off home fees, which is quite nice. And
Katie, we could stop here for a while. It seems like a lot of money, but here we could explain that you don't have to pay it up front, but you can, which is, I believe, personally fantastic thing as a student loan.
Yeah.
And basically, you pay it back only once you can afford it, which means that every education should have a value, right? And if you will be able to earn some particular amount of money, which is right now 25,000 a year, and if you don't earn this money, so your education probably don't have value, but which you don't pay back anything because you get nothing worthy. So
absolutely, yeah.
You will pay only once you can afford it, and it's not a mortgage; it's loan.
And when you apply for the loan as well, you know, it's quite important to note that you apply for the loan will be in your name, but you will not be passed the money. That money will go straight to the university. It doesn't come in your bank and you don't pay out of your bank. It just goes directly to the university. So that £9,000, you're not paying directly yourself. You're not having to hand over £9,000. It's just done. So it's nice and easy. Nobody's asking you to personally pay anything. As you say, Roman, once you've graduated, that's when you will start to pay, and you'll only pay when you earn a certain amount of money.
Yeah, and aim is when you decide to go study abroad, so probably you want to live some qualitative different life than you would live Slovak education. You want to achieve things in life, and once you have good salary, so probably you reach your goal, so you can afford also to pay back for your education.
Yeah, it's a good system. There's a lot more kind of explanation on our website, and Usually Student Finance England are who you would apply through. They've got loads of resources on their website to help you understand how it works.
Actually, Katie, we do in the forms, and we have
fantastic
form with certifier, with notifications, and we can administrate it.
Even easier.
Yeah.
And then scholarships. These are a little bit tricky for undergraduate students, really, at Hope, admittedly, because they will have funding. And so scholarships don't necessarily come into play as much for undergraduate students as they would for postgraduate. For undergraduate, as you can see, we do an international scholarship for students coming on our engineering programs, and an excellency bursary, but they wouldn't necessarily apply to students who were maybe coming through the kind of UK funding system. So it's just something to be aware of. That might be the case for other UK universities as well. For postgraduate though, again, there's a couple more there. I'll not go into too much detail again with these. Yeah. Most of them you have to apply directly through the university for postgraduate. So things like the requirements may change year on year. And again, some of them are a little bit more narrow. So for example, the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship would only apply to those within the Commonwealth, as it quite clearly says. So just things to consider when you're looking at scholarships at UK universities and you're maybe coming over as an EU student. Just make sure you're aware of the exact sort of regulations, I guess, and requirements. So our campuses then. This is what I'm talking about. So this image, if you do end up applying to us, you'll probably see a lot of. This is our main campus, or one of the buildings on our main campus on Hope Park. This building is used as seminar, tutorial rooms. The library is here as well. So it's quite an old, historic looking building. Hope Park, as I mentioned, is our main campus. So most students will study, live and work here. Basically, unless you were doing something that was creative, and you'll see in a second, you would be based on this campus. So teaching, politics, marketing, as we mentioned before, sports, that sort of thing. Most facilities will be on this campus. Because it's the main campus and most teaching goes on here, accommodation wise, we do have accommodation on the campus, but it's not as big on this campus. We have a specialist kind of residential village for any sort of overspill of students studying on this campus. And as I mentioned, as you can see here, we've got the business school, the sports hall, library, accommodation, catering, that sort of thing. Now, if you were studying something more creative, so art, drama, music, musical theatre, design, anything along those lines, you would be based at our creative campus. Now, the difference between the two, other than size and kind of what it specialises in, is that Hope Park is 20 minutes from the city centre, whereas Creative Campus is in the city centre. It's nice and close to galleries, museums, kind of artist studios, that sort of thing. So it just means that, again, creative students are getting more tailored facilities. They're not just having to sit in a random classroom and try and do something creative. They've got specialist facilities. So as you can see, dance studios, fabrication labs, black box theatres for drama students, music technology labs, but also accommodation, library and catering, just like on the other campus. This is a much smaller campus and we might have maybe a couple of hundred students on creative, whereas everybody else would be on Hope Park. Now, if you studied a combination course, let's say you did dance and English, you would study dance, obviously, at Creative Campus, creative subject, and you would study English on Hope Park. There is a free bus that goes between the two, and so you don't have to worry about, you know, getting to and from your courses at all. It's already sorted for you. You just have to get up on time and make the bus. So, and then Egbert Park is our final campus. This is solely residential. There's no teaching. There's no library. There's computer facilities, washing facilities, but there's no teaching. It's just residential. So for students who don't live on Hope Park or Creative Campus, most students will live on Egbert because it's bigger and it's just full of, you know, student rooms basically. And then we also have a place called Plascardian. I'll not talk about that too much, but basically it's a lovely little outdoor activity centre in North Wales. Wales isn't too far from England, both in the UK obviously, but close neighbours. And we like to try and take students here in their first year as like team bonding. Usually it's things like sports students or geography students, but we do try and make it open to all students studying. So I guess that makes Hope quite different to a lot of universities as well, in the fact that we have additional sort of campuses for, you know, for things that are additional to kind of generic teaching and learning. And then when you come to study at Hope, obviously we have accommodation, as I've mentioned, that is all guaranteed. So you don't have to worry about, you know, whether or not you will get a room. You will. It's just what you want from it, whether you want to share your facilities or whether you want your own. The price obviously therefore differs, and the price does change every now and then, but usually it's fairly similar. On our website, we do have a lot more images of the halls of residence. Now, again, they're fairly similar. They look pretty much the same. Again, it just depends on what facilities you want, really. And as you can see there, that's kind of what they look like inside. Decorate them how you wish. Now, when you're on campus, obviously it's quite important that you have someone you can talk to in whatever situation that might be. So typically the Students' Union is always a good place to start for students who are looking to maybe join clubs, join teams, speak to someone about maybe accommodation, their studies, anything like that. But I hope we like to make sure that you've got a wider range of people to speak to and support systems, really. So other than the things you can see here, sports teams, societies, that sort of thing, trips across the UK to North Wales, anywhere like that, we have dedicated tutors for all aspects of student life. So a personal tutor. When you study at Hope, you'll do your lectures in a big lecture hall with, you know, 30, 40, 50 people, however big your course is. You'll then do a seminar, which is a little bit smaller, maybe half the class size, 25 people. It's a bit more interactive, you know, you feel a bit more confident to sort of speak out, ask questions. But in your first and your second year, we guarantee that you will have a personal tutor that you will meet once a week, and you will meet with them no more than a group of 10. So we narrow those groups down again, which means you have a better opportunity to say, you know, maybe I am struggling with this particular aspect of the course, or I'm not sure how to tackle this particular question. And it creates an environment that's a little bit more open for students to be able to feel like they can ask questions. Because it is daunting coming to university, especially if you're moving from another country. So we want to make sure that you've got all of those opportunities. Outside of your teaching, residential tutors live on campus with you. They are there 24 hours a day. I wouldn't suggest knocking on their door at 3 a.m, but if you needed them, they are there. They help you move in, they help you move out, and they're good support systems. And then counselling and obviously careers and employability, they can help you with looking at kind of where you take your next steps after you've graduated. And if you're worried about maybe your funding or getting a part-time job or anything like that when you're a student in the UK, our financial and kind of advice team can help you with anything that you might need along those lines. So obviously when you start university, those things will be signposted. Your first few weeks you'll probably forget that they even exist, but they do, and we like to make sure on our campuses that students are aware of where they are based. Again, as you saw right at the very beginning, we have a lot of student satisfaction, we have high rates of employability, that sort of thing. So we do make sure that students use these services as best they can. And then finally, the City of Liverpool. for those that may have never seen. It's beautiful. This kind of clock-looking building in the background is the Liver building, very famous in Liverpool. That sits right on the docks. And the birds that you can see on the top, they are liver birds. They are kind of synonymous with being a Scouser or being from Liverpool. So yeah, lovely building.
Even the Liverpool Football Club, they have them in logo.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see here, this girl, the wings behind her, they are liver bird wings. So it's everywhere. It's on street art, popular culture. It's very well known. As I mentioned, we've got over 50,000 students in Liverpool across 4 or 5 universities, 3 in the city and then 2 kind of on the outskirts. It's very affordable. Myself moving from kind of Leeds way, it was very manageable to move to Liverpool. The cost of living is a lot lower than a lot of other cities in the UK. That goes for rent, that goes for sort of shopping, nights out, that sort of thing. As I say, it's very well located, direct trains to London, Manchester, Birmingham, Edinburgh, Glasgow, wherever you wish to travel. And it has a lot of cultural ties. So again, Capital Culture in 2008, the oldest Chinatown in Europe, Travellers Award, 3rd in the UK for kind of top destination, that sort of thing. So it's, even if you are sort of living in the city, you will notice that it's popular with people just visiting and sort of taking in the culture, which is really nice. As you can see here, a little bit more of the city. You've got the Beatles there, you've got football, that sort of thing. But, you know, we have 2 very beautiful cathedrals, shopping and pastimes, museums, really, really popular in the city. And then just to kind of give you an idea of sort of where we are, as you can see on the map there, on the left, that's where we are in the UK. And on the right, 1, 2 and 3 are our campuses. So you can kind of see how far those campuses are from each other. The red dotted line is where the free bus takes you. So the free bus for all students and staff will go between all of those campuses. It may look quite far, but as I say, from 1 to 2, so from the main campus to the city centre, it's 20 minutes. I personally live in the city centre and it doesn't take me that long to get to university. And equally from 2 to 3, which is the creative campus, and Egbert Park, the residential one, again, sort of 20-25 minutes. So students don't have to worry about sort of getting their own travel to university of a morning. I think that's everything.
Actually, Katie, it was beautiful, and I'm very sure you've done it many times before.
Indeed.
But now I give you some tricky questions because
okay, go on.
Only you speaking, and I would like to speak a bit about current situation. We should avoid this topic, and how you handled the transmission from teaching at school to online lessons. Do you have some platform in case?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. So when we first started teaching and working and learning from home, we personally at Hope use Moodle. So Moodle is an online platform. A lot of UK universities will use it. They might have their own version. It might be called something else. Moodle doesn't really mean anything, but basically all of our resources, so maybe worksheets, questions for essay titles, reading lists, all those sorts of things would have been on Moodle anyway, even if we weren't kind of, you know, teaching at home. So students can still access everything that they would have done if they were on campus. All that's kind of changed is lectures and seminars are being taught a bit like this, over Zoom, Skype, those sorts of things. So we use our online platform to kind of have all of our resources in one place, online, virtually. Students can submit their essays virtually. They can access, as I say, reading material, access to kind of anything like that. But they will be doing their kind of general learning in front of a screen instead.
Sure, but I believe that you are ready for semester, and if nothing happens, when the semester usually starts, it's Beginning of September? Or
the end of September for us. It's usually towards the start of October more so. So it might be, I think last year it was like the 24th of September, if that was a Monday. So we've got a couple of months yet, but we are planning for both eventualities. So from our point of view, we're still running our courses. Our courses are still going to go ahead in September. And we'll try really, really hard, obviously, to maybe have a couple of lessons virtually, a couple of lessons face-to-face, and try both and see what works best. Obviously, there are some courses that need face-to-face contact, and so we will try really hard to make sure that happens in the most safe way possible. If not, we will continue with our online learning as we're doing at the moment. Obviously, our students that have maybe done their first year or have finished their first year now already know how kind of online works, which is great, so that moving into second year, hopefully that shouldn't be too much of a change for them. Obviously, again though, we'll try and alleviate virtual learning where we can.
Alleviate? I never heard this word, alleviate. It was a good one. And Kate, it was lovely to actually meet and greet with you. We never met before.
No.
Okay. And I think so we could understand each other as humans, which is
absolutely.
And it was nice to hear someone in English after some.
Yeah.
And if you can share with me one more time your screen, your Facebook and your Instagram profile. So maybe, I mean, not yours, but schools. Schools.
I don't know if I have that on the slides.
Or I just maybe Liverpool Hope, if I just type in.
Yeah.
Because I'm really advising students, all of students, they're using social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the best options. I'm not sure if you can see it, but this is Liverpool Hope. All right, and this is probably your dean, right?
He wishes. No, he's one of our academics.
All right. Looks lovely, but this is one of the best ways because students are always on Instagram. So if you want to find some regular information, normal or with value, check Liverpool Hope Instagram, and you can. It's quite updated. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we also do kind of live and online applicant days and virtual days where we do question and answer on Instagram. So if you're interested in asking any questions or seeing live videos of the campus, that sort of thing, definitely keep an eye on the Instagram page.
Excellent. All right, Kate, it was lovely. Really, you are a very calm person.
Thank you.
Very ongoing, even still being calm. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No worries.
I will send you an email.
No problem. Thanks, Roman. Speak to you soon.
Yes, it was excellent. Thank you.
Bye.